Brio English podcast.
Laugh, learn, love English. Have you ever met someone for the first time and within 5 minutes felt completely certain that you could trust them? Not because of what they did, not because of their reputation, not because someone vouched for them, but purely from the way they spoke, the words they used, the way they engaged with you. Something in their language made you think, yes, this person is safe, this person is real, this person I can believe.
I have felt that, absolutely. And the opposite too. Meeting someone where everything seemed fine on the surface, but something about how they spoke made me feel uneasy. I couldn't explain it at the time. Something just felt off. And almost always, looking back, that instinct was right.
That instinct is not random. It's not magic. It's your brain processing thousands of subtle language signals simultaneously. Signals that human beings have been reading in each other for hundreds of thousands of years. And what those signals add up to is a trust assessment. This person is trustworthy, or this person is not. Made in seconds. Often before any real information has been exchanged.
So trust isn't built slowly over time through consistent actions. It can be triggered immediately through language.
Both are true. Trust deepens over time through consistent behavior. Absolutely. But the initial spark of trust, or distrust, happens in the first moments of a conversation. And the words you choose in those first moments determine whether someone's brain decides to open up to you or close down. Whether they engage with you or hold back. Whether they believe what you say or question it.
And for English learners, this matters enormously. Because when you speak in a second language, you're already working hard. Managing grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, the idea that you can simultaneously be deliberate about the specific words that trigger trust, that sounds almost impossible.
And yet, here's the beautiful thing about trust language. The words that build trust are almost always simpler and more direct than the words that erode it. Trust is built through honesty and clarity. Distrust is built through complexity and evasion. So for English learners, choosing the trust-building words is actually easier, not harder, because they're the simpler, more direct words you're probably already gravitating toward.
I love that. The language of trust is the language of simplicity and honesty. That's genuinely encouraging. Let's go through every single one. I'm Maya, he's Alex. This is Brio English podcast.
Before we get into the specific words, let's understand what trust actually is and why language triggers it so powerfully. Because trust is not one single thing. Researchers who study trust consistently find that it has 3 distinct components, and language affects all 3 simultaneously.
3 components of trust. What are they?
First, competence. Do I believe this person knows what they're talking about? Do they have the capability to do what they're saying they can do? Second, benevolence. Do I believe this person has my interests at heart? Are they trying to help me or trying to help themselves? And third, integrity. Do I believe this person is honest? Do they tell the truth even when it's uncomfortable? Do they do what they say they will do?
And different words and phrases signal different components of trust?
Exactly. Some language builds competence trust. It signals that you know your subject, that you're reliable, that you can be counted on. Other language builds benevolence trust. It signals that you genuinely care about the other person, that their interests matter to you. And other language builds integrity trust. It signals that you're honest, that you acknowledge uncertainty, that you say what you mean and mean what you say.
And the most trusted people, the ones who make you feel instantly that you can rely on them, are probably signalling all 3 simultaneously.
The most trusted people score high on all 3. And interestingly, most people focus only on competence. They work hard to sound knowledgeable and capable, but they neglect benevolence and integrity, which are actually more powerful trust builders than competence alone. You can trust someone who is competent but cold, but you don't enjoy it. You can trust someone who is warm but not entirely capable, and somehow it feels okay. But when someone scores high on all 3, competence, benevolence, and integrity together, that's when trust becomes almost instantaneous.
So today we're covering language for all three components, not just sounding knowledgeable, but sounding genuinely caring and genuinely honest at the same time.
Exactly. And I want to say one more important thing before we start. The most important rule about trust language: it only works if it's genuine. If you use these phrases while actually being dishonest or self-serving, people will sense the gap between the language and the reality. Language accelerates trust that is real. It cannot manufacture trust that isn't there. So everything we cover today is most powerful when it reflects what you actually mean and actually feel.
Authentic language for authentic trust. Let's go through it all.
Category 1. The language of honesty. These are phrases that signal integrity, that you tell the truth, that you acknowledge what you don't know, that you say difficult things directly rather than hiding them in vague language. Maya, what's the most powerful honesty phrase you can think of?
I don't know. 3 words, said directly and without embarrassment. I think that might be the most powerful trust-building phrase in the English language.
And it is. Research on trust consistently shows that people who readily admit when they don't know something are trusted far more than people who always have an answer. Because everyone knows that no one knows everything. So when someone confidently answers every single question without hesitation, our brain starts to doubt them. But when someone pauses and says, "I don't know, but I'll find out," we think, this person tells the truth. This person's answers mean something because they only give answers when they actually know.
The problem is that most people, especially in professional settings, feel that saying "I don't know" makes them look incompetent. So they answer anyway, even when they're not sure, even when they're guessing.
And that's exactly when trust erodes. Because the person asking often knows enough to sense that the answer isn't quite right. And suddenly they're thinking, did this person just make that up? Can I believe anything they tell me? One honest "I don't know" protects the credibility of everything else you say. One dishonest, confident answer damages all of it.
What's the best way to say "I don't know" in English without sounding completely lost?
Several options depending on the context. That's a great question, and honestly, I'm not certain. Let me look into it and come back to you. Or, I don't have that information to hand, but I'll find out today. Or simply, I'm not sure about that. What I do know is, and then share what you do know. The key is always pairing the "I don't know" with either a commitment to find out or a pivot to what you do know confidently.
So it's not just "I don't know" and then silence. It's "I don't know, and here's what I'm going to do about it."
Exactly. Action follows honesty. That's what turns "I don't know" from a vulnerability into a trust signal. Second honesty phrase. I was wrong about that. Even harder to say than "I don't know." And even more powerful as a trust builder. Because admitting you were wrong, genuinely, directly, without qualification, signals something extraordinary about your character. It says, I care more about the truth than about being right. And that's the foundation of real integrity.
Most people never say "I was wrong" directly. They say, "Perhaps I didn't express myself clearly," or "There may have been a misunderstanding," or "The situation has evolved," all of which mean I was wrong without ever actually saying it.
And everyone sees through those constructions immediately. They signal, this person knows they were wrong, but won't own it. Which is actually more damaging to trust than the original error. The error itself is forgotten quickly. The refusal to acknowledge it is remembered for a very long time. A direct, I was wrong about that and here's what I understand now, said cleanly and without excessive apology, builds enormous trust. People think, if this person admits when they're wrong, I can believe them when they say they're right.
Third honesty phrase,
I need to be transparent with you about something. This phrase signals that something potentially difficult or uncomfortable is coming, but that you're choosing to share it anyway. Because transparency matters more to you than convenience. It's used when delivering difficult news, when acknowledging a problem, when sharing something the other person might not want to hear. I need to be transparent with you. The project is running behind, and here's why. The word transparent itself carries enormous weight. It implies no hidden agenda, no selective truth, Complete openness.
And when someone uses that phrase, I need to be transparent with you, you immediately pay attention because you know what's coming is genuine. They've signaled that they're choosing honesty over comfort. That's a remarkable thing to signal.
And one more. I could be wrong, but this one is subtle but powerful. It's used before sharing an opinion or assessment. I could be wrong, but I think this approach has a fundamental flaw. It doesn't undermine your view. You're still sharing it clearly and directly, but it signals intellectual humility, that you hold your opinions with confidence but not with arrogance, that you're open to being challenged. And that signal, I'm confident but not closed, is enormously attractive to the people around you. Category 2. The language of genuine care. These are the phrases that build benevolence trust. That signal, I am interested in you. Your situation matters to me. I'm not just talking to you because I need something from you. I actually care about how things are going for you.
And the challenge here is that caring language can easily tip into sounding performative or insincere. We've all experienced people who say, "How are you?" in a way that makes it completely clear they don't want to know the answer. The words are right, but the intent is hollow.
That's exactly the challenge. And it comes back to what I said at the beginning. Language accelerates genuine care. It can't manufacture fake care. But when the care is real, and you find the right words to express it, the impact is extraordinary. First phrase, what do you need from me right now? 4 of the most powerful words in any relationship, professional or personal. Not, let me know if you need anything, which is polite but vague and puts the burden entirely on the other person. But directly asking, what do you need from me right now, shows active willingness to help rather than passive availability.
Let me know if you need anything is something everyone says, but almost nobody means specifically, because it's so open and so unspecific that the other person doesn't know how to respond. But what do you need from me right now? That's a real offer. That requires a real answer, and it signals genuine engagement with their situation.
Exactly. And notice the right now. It adds urgency and presence. You're not offering help in some vague future. You're asking about this moment, their current need. That specificity of time signals that you're fully present with them, not halfway thinking about something else.
Second care phrase?
That must have been really difficult. Or, that sounds incredibly hard. Acknowledgement phrases. Before jumping to solutions, before offering advice, before reframing things positively, acknowledging the difficulty of someone's experience. This is one of the most powerful and most underused trust builders in any relationship. Most people jump straight to solutions because they want to help. But what the other person often needs first is to feel understood.
I learned this the hard way. A close friend going through something terrible, I immediately started suggesting what she should do, what steps she could take, how it might get better, and she stopped me and said, I don't need solutions right now. I just need to know that you understand how hard this is. And I realised I had completely skipped the most important part.
Most people do exactly that. And the reason is that sitting with someone's difficulty, genuinely acknowledging it without trying to fix it immediately, requires real emotional courage. It's easier to jump to solutions, but that must have been really difficult. Said sincerely, and without immediately following it with, but here's what you should do, creates a moment of genuine human connection. The other person feels seen, and feeling seen is the foundation of trust.
Third care phrase, and I think this one is particularly interesting for professional settings.
I've been thinking about what you said. This phrase, used in a follow-up conversation, is one of the most powerful signals of genuine care available. It tells the other person that after your last conversation ended, they stayed in your mind. Their words mattered enough that you continued thinking about them. In a world where most conversations are forgotten the moment they end, learning that someone actually thought about what you said afterwards is deeply significant.
Oh, that's so true. When someone says that to me, I've been thinking about what you said. It completely changes how I feel about the relationship, because it means I wasn't just another conversation they had that day. I was someone they genuinely thought about.
And in professional settings, I've been thinking about the challenge you mentioned in our last meeting. signals extraordinary attentiveness, that you remember specifically what they shared, that it mattered to you beyond the meeting itself. Leaders who use this phrase consistently build extraordinary loyalty in the people around them.
And one more for this category. I hear you, but used properly, not as a dismissive phrase, but as a genuine acknowledgement, said slowly, with full eye contact if in person, with a pause before responding. I hear you, when it's genuine, means everything you just said landed. I received it. I'm holding it with the weight it deserves.
The key distinction, I hear you, used as a pivot phrase before immediately moving on to your own point, that signals the opposite of care. But I hear you, used as a genuine full stop, followed by a pause, followed by a response that actually addresses what was said. That's one of the warmest and most trust-building phrases in English. Now the flip side, because understanding what builds trust is only half the picture. Understanding what destroys trust is equally important, and some of the most trust-destroying phrases are ones people use constantly without realizing the impact. Maya, what phrase do you think destroys trust fastest?
To be honest with you, which we actually covered in episode 6, but I think it deserves to come up again here because of how powerfully it erodes trust. Every time someone says, to be honest with you, my brain immediately thinks, so what were you being before?
Exactly right. To be honest implies that honesty is the exception rather than your default state. And once that seed of doubt is planted, it's remarkably hard to remove. Second trust destroyer. Trust me. The phrase itself is almost a contradiction. People who are genuinely trustworthy almost never need to ask you to trust them. Their actions and their language demonstrate trustworthiness without needing to request it. When someone says, trust me, especially before sharing something important, it almost always has the opposite effect.
Ha! Trust me immediately makes me not trust them. It's like saying, I'm a very honest person, which is also something genuinely honest people rarely need to say.
I'm a very honest person is another one. Or, I would never lie to you. People who are genuinely honest let their honesty speak for itself through consistent, truthful behavior over time. They don't announce it. The announcement itself is the red flag. Third trust destroyer, with all due respect. This phrase has become completely inverted in meaning. It is now universally understood to mean, I'm about to say something disrespectful, and I'm using this phrase as a thin cover. No one hears with all due respect and thinks, oh good, genuine respect is incoming.
Ha! With all due respect is basically a warning siren now. Whenever I hear it, I brace myself for whatever's about to come. It's lost all its original meaning completely.
Completely inverted. If you genuinely respect someone, show it through how you engage with their ideas. Take them seriously. Address their actual argument. Disagree thoughtfully. That demonstrates respect. The phrase with all due respect does the opposite. Fourth trust destroyer. No offense but, which we also covered in episode 6. But again, in the context of trust, it's even more important. Because no offense but signals that you know what you're about to say is offensive, you're saying it anyway, and you're asking the other person to absorb the offense without showing it. That's not honest communication. That's using a verbal disclaimer to avoid accountability for unkind words.
And the fifth one, which I think is the most subtle and the most damaging in professional settings, over-promising. Saying yes to things you know you probably can't deliver. Saying absolutely no problem, when the honest answer is, I'll do my best, but I want to be realistic with you about the timeline.
Over-promising is one of the fastest and most complete trust destroyers that exists, because it creates an expectation. And when the expectation isn't met, even if you worked hard and had good intentions, the other person feels let down. And a pattern of feeling let down erodes trust in a way that's very difficult to rebuild. The trusted communicator underpromises and overdelivers. They say, I think I can have this to you by Friday, when they know they can probably do it by Thursday. Because landing on Thursday feels like a gift, and landing on Friday feels reliable, both of which build trust. Trust language works differently depending on the context. Let's go through the 3 most important situations where trust language makes the biggest difference. job interviews, new relationships, and difficult conversations.
Job interviews first, because I think this is where trust language is most counterintuitively powerful.
In job interviews, most people focus entirely on competence language, showcasing their skills, their achievements, their experience, which is important, but everyone does it. The candidates who stand out are the ones who also demonstrate integrity and genuine interest in the role and the company. Practical trust-building phrases for interviews. I want to be honest with you about a gap in my experience here. I haven't done exactly this before, but here's how I'd approach it. That honesty about a limitation, paired with a confident plan, builds more trust than pretending the limitation doesn't exist.
And I genuinely want to understand what success looks like in this role from your perspective. Shows care about their needs, not just your own desire to get the job.
Exactly. Second context, new professional relationships. When you're working with someone new, building trust quickly matters enormously for how effectively you can collaborate. Key phrase. I want to make sure I understand what matters most to you on this project. That question signals that you're not just going to do things your way, you're going to align with their priorities. That's benevolence trust built in one sentence.
And in difficult conversations, when you need to deliver bad news or challenge someone's view, what's the most important trust-building language?
Two things. First, acknowledge the difficulty before delivering it. I want to talk about something that I think might be hard to hear, and I'm raising it because I think it's important and because I respect you enough to be direct. That preamble signals care and honesty simultaneously. Second, end with a question, not a statement. I wanted to share that perspective. What's your reaction? Ending with a genuine question signals that you've shared your view, but you're genuinely interested in theirs. That the conversation is mutual, not one-directional, that you trust them to engage with difficult information maturely. Please, this is so important. What were the specific challenges you faced?
When I first started working in English professionally, I noticed that I was being trusted less than my native-speaking colleagues, not because I was less competent or less honest, but because my language patterns were signalling uncertainty, even when I felt certain. I hedged more because I was less sure of my grammar. I used more filler words because I needed more processing time. I qualified more because I wasn't confident in my exact word choices. And all of those patterns, which were about language insecurity, not about genuine uncertainty, were being read as low confidence and low credibility.
That's such an important and underappreciated phenomenon. Language insecurity in a second language can be misread as character uncertainty, as if you're not sure about your ideas when you're actually just not sure about the best word to use.
Exactly. And the solution, which took me a while to figure out, was not to speak more quickly or use more sophisticated vocabulary. It was to do the opposite. Slow down, use simpler words with more confidence, pause before answering rather than filling the pause with hedging language. Own my uncertainty about language directly. I'm looking for the right word here, rather than letting the search for words look like uncertainty about the content.
That's such practical and powerful advice. Naming the language search, I'm looking for the right word, or bear with me while I find the best way to say this, is itself a trust-building move. It's transparent, it shows metacognitive awareness, and it keeps the listener focused on waiting for your content rather than worrying about whether you know what you're talking about.
And one more thing for English learners specifically, your accent is not a trust barrier. Research consistently shows that accents do not significantly reduce trust when the speaker is otherwise confident, clear, and direct. The trust signals we've covered today, honesty, care, directness, reliability, work across every accent. You don't need to sound like a native speaker to be deeply trusted. You need to use the language of trust, and that's available to everyone.
I want to highlight that because I think it's genuinely important. Accent does not determine trust. Character expressed through language does, and character has no accent. Let's bring everything together. The language of trust across all three components.
Integrity trust? Honesty language? I don't know. I was wrong. I need to be transparent. I could be wrong, but these phrases signal that you tell the truth even when it's uncomfortable. that your words can be relied upon.
Benevolence, trust, care language. What do you need from me right now? That must have been really difficult. I've been thinking about what you said. I hear you. These phrases signal that you're genuinely interested in the other person, that their experience matters to you.
And avoid the trust destroyers. To be honest, trust me. With all due respect, no offence but, and over-promising. These phrases, however common, quietly erode the trust you're working to build.
And for English learners specifically, slow down, simplify, name your language search when you need to, and remember, your accent is not a barrier to trust. Your honesty, your care, and your reliability are, and those are fully available to you right now in the very next conversation you have. Listener challenge, and this week I want you to do two things, one small removal and one small addition.
Tell us both.
First, the removal. This week identify one trust-destroying phrase you use regularly. The most common ones we covered. To be honest, trust me, with all due respect, no offense but, or over-promising. Pick one. Notice every time you're about to say it. Replace it with either silence or with something more direct.
Second, the addition. This week use one trust-building phrase you don't currently use, either from the honesty category or the care category. Use it genuinely, in a real conversation where it fits naturally. Not forced, not performed. Just try it once and notice how the other person responds.
One removal, one addition, 1 week, and come back and tell us what happened. Did removing the trust destroyer change anything? Did adding the trust builder change how someone responded to you? We want to hear every single story. The comments on this podcast are becoming one of the most remarkable collections of real human experience I've ever read. Please add to it. Listener comments and the responses to Episode 8's Communication Habits Challenge have been extraordinary. You all picked your habits and came back to report.
Read them all.
First comment, from a listener in South Korea. I chose Habit 3, we not I. I work in a team of 8 people, and I have always naturally said I when talking about our work. This week I switched to we consistently. On Wednesday, my team leader pulled me aside and said the team seemed more energized this week and asked if I'd done something different. I told her I'd been using we more. She laughed and said she was going to start doing the same. One pronoun, 8 energized people.
One pronoun energized a team of 8 people. One word. We instead of I, and the change was noticed by a team leader within 3 days. That is the most powerful real-life evidence for Habit 3 that I could possibly imagine. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Second comment, from a listener in Pakistan. I chose Habit 1, simplify. I am an engineer, and I have always written very technical emails full of jargon because I thought it made me sound professional. This week I rewrote every email in plain, simple language. My colleague replied to one of them and said, "Finally, I understand what you actually need from me. I have been working with this colleague for 2 years. She has never understood my emails clearly before. 2 years of unnecessarily complicated communication fixed in 1 week."
2 years of miscommunication fixed in 1 week by simplifying language. That is genuinely moving. All that wasted time and friction, gone, because one person decided to choose clarity over complexity. That's the power of Habit 1 in real life.
And one more, from a listener in Turkey. I tried Habit 2, listening. In my next meeting, I made a deliberate decision to speak less and listen more. I said barely anything for the first 20 minutes, just listened completely. At the end of the meeting, my manager said, "That was one of the most productive meetings we've had." I was the quietest person in the room, and somehow I contributed most to the quality of the meeting simply by actually listening to everyone else.
The quietest person in the room contributed most by actually listening. That is the most perfect possible summary of Habit 2. You showed up, you were completely present, and the quality of the conversation changed because of it. That listener understood something profound this week.
And that is Episode 9 of Brio English Podcast.
The 3 components of trust: competence, benevolence, and integrity. The language of honesty? I don't know. I was wrong. I need to be transparent. I could be wrong. But the language of care. What do you need from me right now? That must have been really difficult. I've been thinking about what you said. I hear you. The trust destroyers to remove. To be honest, trust me, with all due respect, no offence but, and over-promising. And the reminder for every English learner, your accent is not a barrier to trust. Your character is, and character has no accent.
One removal and one addition this week. Come back and tell us what changed. We read every single comment.
Next episode, we are exploring something that I think is going to genuinely change how you think about everyday English conversation. The hidden meanings behind phrases that English speakers use constantly. Phrases that mean something completely different from what the words literally say. The English language is full of them, and once you know them, you'll hear them everywhere.
That episode is one of my absolute favourites that we've made. Until next week, be honest, be caring, be reliable. And remember, trust is not built in grand gestures. It's built in small, honest moments, one conversation at a time. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.